The CrossFit Games just concluded, and in this episode, I'm going to share my unfiltered hot take on what happened there. The good, the bad, and the WTF from the CrossFit Games in 2025. Guys, tune in and take notes.
Thanks for listening to my dad's podcast. For more,
welcome to the CrossFit Edwardsville Community Podcast, where we hear and learn from our coaches, CrossFitters, and Glen Ed community leaders. Now, here are your hosts, Dallas and Greg.
The CrossFit Games just concluded in Albany, New York, and in the CrossFit space, so many people are now talking about it and sharing their thoughts on it. And so I thought I'd jump into the fray and give you guys my real hot take. The good, the bad, the WTF of the CrossFit Games. Did the right athletes win the CrossFit Games? What did they get right? What did they get wrong at the 2025 CrossFit Games? Reasons that the CrossFit Games might have you a little fired up and a little bit frustrated. We're going to revisit all of these topics today in this episode. So let's jump right into it. My first reflection on the games, Tia Claire Toomey is the greatest to ever do CrossFit. She's now won the CrossFit Games 8 times. And she doesn't just win, she effectively dominates the competition. Like, her margin of victory is just spectacular. I think she's won something like 45, like first place finishes in something like 45 CrossFit Games events. It's something ridiculous like that. This track record of just complete domination, whether it's a very cardio based event like the first event of the CrossFit Games, which was the run, row, run, long monostructural cardio event. She won that. She typically also wins the strength event. I think she was, top 5, top 10 in the strength event. No matter what the test is, she seems to just completely crush all of the competition in a way that even Rich Froning and Matt Frazier in their heyday, in ways that even they couldn't match. So mad respect to Tia Claire Toomey, now the 8 times CrossFit Games champion. And she's been competing at the games, I think, now for 10 years. As somebody who's also been doing CrossFit for the last 10 years, not at anywhere near her competitive level, but I can just attest that, the day in, day life stresses that you deal with, and just little aches and pains and knee woes or shoulder issues that come up. The fact that she can be at the top of the game year after year is just really, really mind-blowing and very cool. Mad respect to her and Shane Orr and the Proven team. I mean, she's shown that it can be done even as a mother of a small child. She is the best in the world, period, full stop. That's my first thought on this CrossFit Games. Next, when I look at the CrossFit Games programming for this year, I noticed that running came up a lot. I think there were something like 6 events of the CrossFit Games that included running, which means that it showed up more than any other exercise at all. A disproportionate weighting of the CrossFit Games, I think, went to running. And I don't mean to throw any shade at running, because I think that running is one of the world's 3 greatest exercises. I've said that on the podcast before. I think running is one of those exercises that does give disproportionate benefit relative to a lot of other exercises. But if we were going to be looking to find the fittest on earth, I would think that you would probably want to explore more avenues of monostructural exercise, meaning biking did not show up even once at the games. Swimming did not show up even once at the games. But again, running did something like 6 times. Now, obviously, the topic of swimming at the games is a little bit of a sore subject, and we're all very, I think, extra sensitive after the Lazar Dukic incident of last year, and I completely get that. But I think if you were trying to find the all-around fittest person on earth, you might be more interested to see how they do with swimming or biking type events versus so many running events. That's just my hot take, my two thoughts on that. And again, I have nothing against running. And when I say biking, I mean actual on a road bike or a mountain bike outside, actually on real terrain, real surface. I am aware that they did do echo bike at the CrossFit Games, but that is a different challenge than being outside and dealing with variable surfaces and things like that. So interesting take, I think, on the content of the workouts, the tests of the CrossFit Games. Here's my next thought on the games. The interest in the games and the attendance at the games definitely does seem to be down versus before. If you were scanning the seats in the background of the live streams of the events, you would see that a lot of those seats were empty this year. Seats that I feel were formerly just packed. Like we would pack the house where Saturday night under the lights, every seat in the house was taken by somebody standing right in front of it on their feet. It does seem as though, just generally speaking, and also, not just what we see on the live stream, but what we see on the socials, the amount of interest, engagement, reposting, posting about stuff seen at the games seems like it was definitely less this year than it has been in years previously. Obviously, that sort of thing would be multifactorial, and almost certainly there is a part of it that, again, is a domino effect of the death at the CrossFit Games last year. I think casting a shadow over the games in some respects. I think there's also the part where, all of the CrossFit Games participants, generally speaking, they all look like real life superheroes. They're incredibly fit, functional athletes with incredible muscle, and they look outstanding. But it also feels like there aren't as many CrossFitters that have a true star quality now compared to years previously. And the examples that come readily to mind for me are guys like Matt Frazier and Rich Froning and Josh Bridges on the men's side, guys that had so much charisma and star power that you would tune in just to watch those guys in particular. Or on the women's side, with the daughters from Iceland, Sarah Sigmund's daughter, Katrin David's daughter, Annie Thora's daughter, all of those stars of yesteryear had such a star power and draw to them. People would tune in because they were favored characters and they were larger than life a lot of times, and they're so much fun to watch. And it does feel like the cast of characters at the games now isn't as compelling as it has been in years past. I think that probably is a part of what's driving maybe a little bit less interest at the games. Plus, I know that people like me from the quote old guard of CrossFit, I've been CrossFitting for 17 years now. We do CrossFit for different reasons now. I don't do CrossFit to be competitive in CrossFit as much as I do CrossFit so that I can be outstanding at any life endeavor that I want to do, whether it being the best dad that I can be, the best spouse that I can be, the best steward of my temple for my Lord, the best employee that I can be, the best leader that I can be, the best in my church, in terms of service, bringing my absolute best to serving at my church. Like, I do CrossFit in order to empower me to do all those other things in life, not so I can go and win a weekend competition. And I think that a lot of our CrossFitters resonate with that more than competing at the CrossFit Games. But no, that said, there are exceptions, and there are definitely people in our CrossFit community they still get super jazzed about the notion of competition, both for themselves and then also watching this showcase of the best on earth. I certainly tuned in to see what was going on with the CrossFit Games this year, but overall, it just seems like it has a smaller audience than it used to. Let's go to my next thought on the CrossFit Games. I have really mixed feelings about Ricky Garrard. And if you don't know, Ricky Garrard, he took second place at the CrossFit Games this year in the men's elite division. And this for him is something of a redemption because several years back, I forget what year it was exactly, but he had, I think, taken third place at a previous CrossFit Games, only to have his medals stripped from him after the fact because he had failed a drug test. Like he had tested positive for some performance enhancing drug. And so they took away his title and he was given a 4-year ban from CrossFit. And he became the pariah, the black sheep of the CrossFit community for that reason, because there's a lot of people, myself included, that care deeply about CrossFit and the sport, and that it's done clean and fair, that the guys and the girls that are at the highest levels of the sport are people of character who play by fair rules and compete fairly and don't cheat by using performance enhancing drugs. And that's one of the things that I like with guys like Rich Froning and Matt Frazier, that I really believe those guys are not using performance enhancing drugs and they're competing fair and clean. And we love them for that they're truly spectacular examples of what is possible with fitness. And those guys have been tested so many times and never tested positive. And then Ricky Garrard got caught and got expelled, got banned from the CrossFit Games for 4 years, and then clawed his way back to getting on the podium again here in 2025. And there's the part of me that thinks that's a really cool redemption story. And there's also the part of me that doesn't still really trust the guy all that much. Like, did he just get better at working the system? Did he actually go from a performance enhancing drug user to not a performance enhancing drug user and make it? I don't know. I am not an expert on PEDs. I don't claim to be. I will never be an expert because I don't spend my time trying to learn about those things. I have other topics that interest me more. But there is a part of me that still doesn't fully trust Ricky Garrard and feels kind of weird about him being on the podium. So let's start the flip side, though. My last topic here, Olivia Kerstetter. So Olivia Kerstetter took third place in the women's competition. And this is so cool for so many reasons, because if you didn't know, Olivia Kerstetter started doing CrossFit when she was 9 years old. I think she's 19 now. And I think she is going to be a part of a new breed of people, Justin Medeiros being another one, who started CrossFit as kids and made it their full-time sport and grew into becoming among the best in the world and taking their rightful place on the podium. Olivia Kerstetter is now the third fittest woman on earth. And that is just like so cool to see somebody who started in CrossFit Kids and then progressed through CrossFit Teens and now is on the podium. That is super cool to me. James Sprague is another example. I think he was a former CrossFit Teen competition winner. Tudor Magda, I think, is another one who has graduated from youth CrossFit into adult CrossFit and is competing at the highest levels, and all that is super cool. It's also very cool to me that Olivia Kerstetter trained past with Jacob Hepner, the Tactical Games champion. And Hepner is an awesome and super cool and super entertaining dude on the regular on any given Tuesday, but he was like super fired up about his trainee Olivia, and his social media is just a lot of fun to watch with his videos and his posts about Olivia, cheering for her to be among the best at the CrossFit Games. So entertaining. That was so cool to me. Major shout out to Olivia Kerstetter. Welcome to the most elite of the most elite. Hey, I want to hear from you guys, though. What were your thoughts on the CrossFit Games? What did you like? What did you not like? What did you see that pissed you off? What got you fired up? What frustrated you? Tell us in the comments below. We'd be really interested to hear from you guys about that. For now, I thank you for the gift of your time and your attention, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to my dad's podcast. For more useful tools and guidance, go to CrossFitEdwardsville.com and feel free to like, share, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comment sections down below. See you in the next episode.